The Chicago Bears 2024 schedule has officially been released, and it's time to give you guys my game-by-game prediction for how the Bears will be doing in 2024. What's going on, guys? I'm back with another Chicago Bears offseason prediction video, which I'll be doing throughout this entire offseason. The schedule just came out yesterday. If you guys did not see the video the Bears released on their Twitter page, I'd recommend watching that. The Bears social media team did a really good job with it. It was a very fun and entertaining video, but yeah, the schedule is officially out. Now you guys can start making plans for which games you guys want to go to. I might be going to a couple games this year, probably at Soldier Field. I do want to go to the game against the Panthers potentially in week 5. I think that should be hopefully an easy win for us. I do also want to go to the game against the Vikings later on in the season. But let me know down below which games you guys are looking forward to going to. We only have 3 primetime games, which I was pretty surprised about. I thought with all the hype we had entering the season, they might give us 5 primetime games, and technically we do have 5 if you do count the London game and the game against the Lions on Thanksgiving, but those are early morning games, so yes, the whole country will be watching, but not really like a night primetime feel to it. But if the Bears play well, one of these games down the stretch is going to be flexed to Sunday Night Football probably, and maybe it's not entirely a bad thing we don't have too many primetime games with how bad we have been playing on primetime the last couple seasons. But regardless, in this video, I'll be going week by week and giving you guys my prediction for if the Bears are going to win the game that week or not. And right now, it is way too early to predict anything. Obviously, when the season actually begins, I'll be having weekly prediction videos, which could differ from what I'm predicting here, because when the season starts, injuries happen. Some teams end up better than expected. Some teams end up worse than expected. So right now, it is entirely too early to predict how the Bears are going to do, but I still do this every single year for fun. Don't take it too seriously, and you know, it's cool to see how I did at the end of the season, if I came close or if I was way off. And yes, I am a Bears fan, so I do have Bears fan biases, but in these videos, I try very hard to not let those biases affect me. So even though I do want to pick 13, 14 wins for the Bears this year, I will be trying to be, you know, realistic, and especially with the rookie quarterback, you know, some games are going to be a struggle. So I'll be taking all those factors into account. But with all that said, let's begin. We begin the Caleb Williams era at Soldier Field against the Tennessee Titans in week 1. Probably the most random matchup I could have thought of to begin the season with. But hey, I'm not complaining, okay? I think the Titans could be one of the easier opponents on our schedule, even though I'm not taking them lightly, okay? They did improve a lot in the offseason. They traded for L'Jarius Sneed. They had some pretty good draft pickups. Will Levis had, you know, some nice moments last year. They also got Calvin Ridley in the offseason, so it's definitely a more improved team and a team that could take the next step. But I also have a lot of questions about them. They have a new head coach, Bill Callahan. If they kept Mike Vrabel, I might have picked the Titans to win this game. I'm a big Mike Vrabel fan, but they got rid of him and, in my opinion, downgraded at head coach, and they have questions on the offensive line. You know, even in the secondary, they have questions aside from L'Jarius Sneed. So I think the Bears being at home with all the energy entering this game, they're going to come out and win this game in the first game of the Caleb Williams era. I think Caleb probably has a pretty decent outing against a Titans defense that is a little bit susceptible in the back end, and I think the Bears win to go to 1-0 on the season. Week 2, we got the most exciting matchup of the season. We're headed down to Houston to take on the Texans on Sunday Night Football in front of the bright lights. Caleb Williams' first chance at playing in front of the whole country in the NFL, and it is going to be a damn tough matchup. Okay, the Texans improved a lot in the offseason. They already were really good last year. They traded for Stephon Diggs. They also got Danielle Hunter on defense. They get some players back last year that they were missing from injury, like Tank Dell, who had a fantastic rookie year, is probably going to be even better in year 2. And with CJ Stroud already being an established franchise quarterback, established superstar quarterback, I might even venture out to say, I'm obviously going to pick the Texans to win this game, even though I think the Bears might have a chance to stick around and maybe steal the upset at the last second. It's going to be very difficult on the road, especially in a rookie quarterback's second start ever on primetime. So I'm picking a loss, unfortunately, for the Bears. But if they win this one, our expectations this year would change to like winning multiple playoff games, okay? Because if you beat the Houston Texans, like that would be a very, very impressive outing. But I'm picking a loss here, unfortunately. Week 3, we're headed to Indy to take on the Colts. Another AFC South matchup, 3 in a row to start the season. That's pretty crazy, but this is another pretty winnable game, I would say, okay? The Colts are a young team that is very talented. I feel like they added a lot of talent in the NFL draft. Adonai Mitchell, they got Latu, who I really liked. They already got some strong players on that pass rush, like DeForest Buckner. He could give our interior some problems. So I think this will be more of a low-scoring, close affair, but I do think the Bears can win at the end simply because our receivers that we have, like, their cornerbacks do not match up against our receivers. And that's the thing against a lot of the opponents we face off against this year. You got to look at who their CB2 and CB3 are, because many teams have a decent CB1. Very few teams have a decent CB2 and CB3, let alone star CB2s and CB3s. And you need stars to contain DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and Rome Odunze for a whole game. And I just don't see those stars in the Colts secondary. So I think at the last second, one of these receivers is going to make a play to win the game for the Bears, moving us to 2-1 on the season. Week 4, we're going back to Soldier Field to take on the LA Rams at home. And any matchup against Sean McVay is always going to be an extremely tough matchup. Sean McVay is a top 5 coach in the NFL. He just always finds ways to win games and put his offenses in the best positions to succeed. And Matt Stafford has played a lot of games at Soldier Field in the past. He's already used to the cold environment, the cold temperatures. Well, it's not going to be cold this early in the season anyway, so scratch that. But he's already used to Soldier Field. And I just think the Rams are a much more proven team right now, with the more proven head coach, the more proven quarterback. They don't have Aaron Donald anymore, which is pretty nice, but they have a pretty solid front seven. Like, they got Braden Fisk, who they added via the NFL draft, also Jared Verse they drafted. They already got Kobe Turner, Byron Young. So their front seven could present some problems for our offensive line. I hope our offensive line has, answers for them, but being the more veteran team, I am picking the Rams to win this, to drop us down to 2-2 on the season. Week 5, we got the Carolina Panthers at home, probably the easiest matchup of the year, and no matchup in the NFL is ever going to be a gimme. Like, you still have to fight and earn your victory, but the Panthers still are not a very good football team, in my opinion. Yes, they did add pieces around Bryce Young, and maybe he has a better sophomore season. He should, right? With the new weapons, they got the new pieces on the offensive line, but their defense downgraded heavily in the offseason, okay? All the pieces they had on defense, they basically invested those resources into the offense. So yes, their offense could be better, but their defense is going to be very susceptible against a Bears passing attack that just has way too many weapons. I don't think JC Horn alone can cover all these guys if he's even healthy at this point in the season. He always gets injured. But, I don't see the pieces in the Panthers secondary to stop our insane weapons. So I think the Bears win big here. I think Caleb Williams could rub it in the Panthers fans' faces that, hey, you traded away the pick that was used to draft me, let alone gave up a lot of other assets, including DJ Moore, who hopefully has more of a revenge game. He didn't really have many stats in the last game against the Panthers last year because Tyson Bagent was playing at quarterback. I hope DJ Moore has a fantastic revenge game in this one, and the Bears go to 3-2 on the season. Week 6, we're going to London to take on the Jacksonville Jaguars, and this is actually a home game for us, which kind of sucks because the Jaguars already have a big fan base in London. So I do expect a lot of Bears fans to still be there because we have a big international fan base, but it kind of sucks we have a home game away from Soldier Field in a totally different country. It's not going to be good for for rest and all that, but I think this could be a pretty exciting matchup, okay? Trevor Lawrence, who was a generational prospect in his class, versus Caleb Williams, who also, some people called him a generational prospect in this year's class. It's going to be two very talented quarterbacks going up against each other. And obviously, it's not going to be Caleb versus Trevor Lawrence on the football field. It's going to be Caleb versus the Jaguars defense and Trevor Lawrence versus the Bears defense. I think it's going to be a very, very close game. I think these two teams are a little bit similar in some areas in roster talent. The Jaguars definitely have a better front seven. We have better receivers. But again, the Jaguars might have the more proven quarterback. Even though I'm not a massive Trevor Lawrence fan, I don't think he's top 5 or anything. I think he is pretty comfortably top 10, top 12. And, for a Bears team going on the road basically to a different country, I think this could be a tough game to win, especially for a young team with a young quarterback that's still trying to gel and put it all together. I think the Bears could win, but I do have to be realistic and pick losses here and there. So I have the Jaguars winning this game to drop us down to 3-3 before our bye week. Week 7, we have our bye week. It's a little bit early, but it could be worse. I think the earliest bye week possible is week 5. So at least we don't have a week 5 bye week. The Bears team will have a chance to recharge and rejuvenate themselves. And being 3-3 at the bye, I think you could be pretty optimistic with that, with having a rookie quarterback and having, some tough matchups in the first couple games of the season, like the Texans, like the Rams. Being 3-3, I think would be pretty fair for the Bears. Week 8, we're going to Caleb Williams' hometown of Washington, D.C. to face off against the Washington Commanders. And this Commanders team is completely different from last year. They drafted Jaden Daniels. They also drafted Johnny Newton in the second round, which I really loved that selection. I'm a big Johnny Newton fan, so the fact they got him that late was a steal by them, I think. So their front seven could be pretty tough, especially with Jonathan Allen Darren Payne still on that front seven, but they did lose Chase Young and Montez Sweat, obviously, last year. So their pass rush still has some holds on it. And I think Caleb Williams is going to be very motivated for this game. Obviously, having a lot of friends and family members in the audience from him being from the DC area, he's going to be motivated to go out there and put on a show. And even a guy like Montez Sweat, who the Commanders traded away to the Bears, he has the opportunity to get a revenge game and get a couple sacks on a rookie quarterback. So with the Commanders being so young and not, really being at the level that the Bears are right now, I think their roster does not compare to the Bears at this stage. I do think the Bears win on the road to go to 4-3 on the season. Week 9, we're going to Arizona to take on the Arizona Cardinals, and this is the Cardinals team that was rebuilding last year. They did not have Kyler Murray for the majority of last year. Murray came back eventually. In fact, the Bears played the Cardinals last year with Murray on the team, and we still beat them, by a good margin with our quarterback not even playing the best football. So I think this is a very winnable game for the Bears. The Cardinals did get better in the offseason, obviously having a high draft pick. They have Marvin Harrison Jr. That's going to be a tough matchup for Jalen Johnson or whoever is on him to cover him. But the other weapons that the Cardinals have don't really scare me as much. Zay Jones is decent, but not like a star number 2 receiver, right? And there's question marks on the defense too. So I do think the Bears win this one to go to 5-3 on the season. Week 10, after almost a month on the road, we're back at Soldier Field to face off against the New England Patriots and Drake May. And this is a game the Bears should win. Okay, I think that Drake May is a very good quarterback prospect that could be good eventually, but the Patriots just do not have enough pieces around this rookie quarterback. Okay, he's going to be asked to make up for offensive line deficiencies, receiver deficiencies. Their defense could be pretty decent though, right? Like they have Gerard Mayo there as the new head coach, and he worked a lot under Bill Belichick and helped create some pretty good defenses. So I'm confident the Patriots defense could give our offense some problems here and there, but with the Bears defense being pretty good ourselves, I think we could give Drake May a lot of problems too, for some turnovers and win this game at the end to go to 6-3 on the season. Week 11, we finally have our first divisional matchup of the season. I cannot believe we don't play the division until week 11. I have never seen a Bears season where that has happened, where we start playing the games that really matter this late into the year. And our first game is going to be against the Green Bay Packers at Soldier Field. It's going to be Caleb Williams' first chance to turn around this rivalry, which the Packers have dominated basically my entire life. And it is going to be a very, very tough matchup. The Packers are actually good again, okay? Jordan Love was really good last year. They have a really good head coach, obviously, in Matt LaFleur. Their front seven always gives the Bears offensive line so many problems. So this is a game that's going to be very tough to win, guys, at Soldier Field against a team that's more proven than we are right now. But we are not going to be swept by the Packers again this season. I really hope, and I think that Caleb Williams is going to do what it takes to find a way to win this game. Not only him alone, but our defense. Last year against the Packers, I know they struggled in the last game to some extent, but they only allowed 17 points, which was way less than the 49ers and Cowboys allowed in the following weeks in the playoffs. And we didn't even have Jalen Johnson back then, right? So I think our defense maybe could do a better job than expected, especially being at home in front of the fans at Soldier Field. And I think that Caleb Williams and the Bears offense could make just enough plays to sneak by in a victory and beat the Packers for the first time in 5 years to go to 7-3 on the season. A 4-game winning streak now for the Bears. We have another divisional matchup at Soldier Field, this time against the Minnesota Vikings and JJ McCarthy, a local Chicago kid, grew up in the Chicago suburbs. He's going to be returning to Soldier Field to take on his hometown team. And Brian Flores scares me a little bit with how he seems to dominate against rookie quarterbacks. He blitzes the shit out of them, which could be what he does in this game. So Caleb has to be prepared for that. But I do think the Vikings do not have the secondary to cover the Bears' weapons. I mean, that's a common theme with all these matchups, where if all these Bears' weapons stay healthy, I don't see the Vikings cornerbacks to guard against these guys, especially if Caleb gets the ball out quickly, if Shane Waldron can scheme out plays that get the ball out of Caleb's hands quickly. And with the Bears defense being a turnover forcing machine last year against JJ McCarthy, who did not really have to pass the football at Michigan, I think he could be forced to pass the football in this game against the Bears, and the Bears could be getting a couple turnovers off of him. And I think the Bears should win this game, guys, especially being at Soldier Field. I think we should beat the Vikings at least once to go to 8-3 on the season. A 5-game winning streak now for the Bears. This would be pretty fantastic. Week 13, another divisional matchup, this time on Thanksgiving. On Turkey Day, we go to Detroit to take on the Detroit Lions, 11:30 a.m. start, and I have a lot of good memories watching the Bears playing the Lions on Thanksgiving. It seems like we always beat them, at least as of late. We have been beating them, but the Lions obviously are a much better team right now than they were all those years ago, and they are going to be expected to be Super Bowl caliber this year, okay? They have a really good roster. Jared Goff had a fantastic year last year. They kept offensive coordinator Ben Johnson, which is probably the best move of their offseason. I thought they definitely were going to lose Ben Johnson to a head coaching job elsewhere. He stays put in Detroit, which is a big boost to their offense, obviously. So I think even though the Bears dominated the Lions, like 57 out of these 60 minutes we played them last year, I'm going to be picking a loss right here just because we do have a young quarterback who maybe could make some mistakes. Rookie quarterbacks rarely are perfect, and I think the Lions are much stronger on both lines than we are. The offensive and defensive line, they have better ones, so I do think the Lions win this one. I think the Bears obviously have a chance to win with how we dominated them last year for the majority of those games, but I am picking the Lions to win this one to move us down to 8-4 on the season. Week 14, we got another very tough matchup, this time against the 49ers on the road, and the 49ers went to the Super Bowl last year. They have an absolutely stacked roster on both offense and defense, and I'm picking a loss here, guys, for the Bears. I mean, it's going to be very tough with a young quarterback, with a young team going on the road against a veteran team full of superstars in both offense and defense. It's going to be tough to win this game. I don't think the Bears are at that level right now, so I have the Bears losing to drop us down to 8-5 on the season. Week 15, we got a Monday Night Football game against the Minnesota Vikings in Minnesota. It seems like we always play the Vikings on Monday Night Football every single year, and that continues this year. And even though I picked the Bears to win the first game against the Vikings at Soldier Field, I will be picking a loss here just because I think the Vikings are a pretty talented football team, okay? The NFC North is going to be a dogfight. Like, all these teams have a lot of talent. I know their secondary does lack, to some extent, the Vikings does, but they have really solid playmakers on offense. Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, a very smart, offensive-minded head coach. Their defense, led by Brian Flores, could present some problems here and there for the Bears' offensive line, so I'm going to be having the Bears splitting with the Vikings to drop us down to 8-6 on the year. Week 16, we're back at Soldier Field for a matchup against the Detroit Lions, and I had us losing the first game, but I'm obviously not going to have us losing the second game, especially being at Soldier Field with how we almost swept them last year. Like, we could sweep them this year with a much better team that we have now, and hopefully a better quarterback in Caleb Williams, but the Lions still are a really tough team that is, expected to go to the Super Bowl, or at least like go far in the playoffs. So it is going to be tough to beat them, but I do think the Bears can do it at least once, especially being at Soldier Field. The Lions cornerbacks, I think, do lack to some extent. Okay, they added Terrion Arnold in the NFL draft, but rookie cornerbacks we know can struggle even if they are very talented. So I do think in the second matchup, Caleb Williams and the Bears offense goes crazy, and the Bears win this one to go to 9-6 on the season. The day after Christmas, we're playing the Seattle Seahawks on Thursday Night Football, our third primetime game of the year, and I think the Bears win this one. Okay, the Seahawks, I think, are going to be taking a step back this year. I know on paper they have pretty good talent. Like, if you look at the receiving core, they have DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and Jackson Smith-Njigba, so it's going to be a tough matchup for our cornerbacks, but we do have the talent to match up against them, right? Like Jalen Johnson, Kyler Gordon, Tyreek Stevenson, these guys were really good down the stretch last year, so I do think we can match up against them, force Geno Smith into some turnovers, and I think that Geno is not going to have as good of a year this year as he had the past two seasons. That's going to be a tough game for our offense, going up against a very good defensive mind in Mike McDonald, who I'm sure is going to have a lot of crazy blitz packages to use against Caleb Williams, a young quarterback, but I do think the Bears make just enough plays to sneak by in a victory at frigid Soldier Field. And finally, in Week 18, we got the Packers at Lambeau Field again, and sitting at 10 wins, I hope this game does not matter that much for the Bears. It might matter for seeding purposes, but if the Bears have 10 wins, I do think we will have clinched a berth in the playoffs, at least like a wild card berth. So hopefully this isn't do or die for the Bears, because my blood pressure would be through the roof before this game. But since I had the Bears beating the Packers in the first game, I cannot pick another Bears win. I mean, until we beat them at least once, like, I cannot predict a sweep, obviously, especially the second game at Lambeau Field. We have not beaten the Packers at Lambeau Field since that Thanksgiving game all those years back. So I think the Packers win this one to drop us down to 10-7 on the year, which I think should be enough to make the playoffs. So there you have it, guys. That's my final prediction. I'm picking 10 wins for the Bears in 2024, even with a rookie quarterback. And some fans may say that's too optimistic. Others may say that's not optimistic enough with how good of a roster we actually have. But I think that 10 wins it's a very fair and realistic prediction with the roster talent that we have currently. Okay, Caleb Williams is walking into one of the best rosters a rookie quarterback has ever walked into. So if he can be at least an average quarterback in his first year, the Bears very easily could win 10 games. Okay, we have one of the best receiving cores, probably the best receiving core in the NFL. We have a defense that was top 10 down the stretch last year. We have a decent run game. We have pieces on the offensive line too. So part of me is getting the 2018 vibes that I had before that season, where I was just looking at the roster and I was like, this is a really talented roster. Like, we should win 10 games. I picked 10 wins for us in 2018. We ended up winning 12 instead, which is possible for the Bears this year too. Okay, I'm not writing off a potential divisional win as well. Okay, we could win the NFC North this year with the talent that we have, but with a rookie quarterback, I'm not going to predict that. That would be nice to have, but I'm just going to be predicting a wild card berth at 10-7. I think a lot of Bears fans will be happy with that. So leave your predictions down below. What record do you think the Bears are going to have in 2024? I think most Bears fans will be picking anywhere from 9 to maybe even 11 or 12 wins, and I'm not going to blame them for being optimistic with how this offseason has gone for the Chicago Bears. But I'll be back with more videos very soon. Leave your comments down below. As always, bear down.